Detailed summary of 1984 by George Orwell. Overview. 1984 is set in a dystopian future where society is controlled by the totalitarian party, led by Big Brother. The novel follows Winston Smith, a party member who secretly despises the oppressive government and dreams of rebelling. Through his journey, George Orwell examines the themes of surveillance, individualism, freedom, and the dangers of absolute power. Part 1. Chapter 1. The story begins in Oceania, a superstate under the rule of the party, where Winston Smith lives in Airstrip 1, formerly London. In Winston's world, privacy is non-existent. The party's telescreens constantly monitor citizens, enforcing the ideology of INZOC, English socialism. Winston works at the Ministry of Truth, responsible for altering historical records to suit the party's propaganda. The party's slogans, "War is peace," "Freedom is slavery," and "Ignorance is strength," highlight the paradoxes it uses to control thought and behavior. Winston despises the party's lies and dreams of rebellion, yet he understands that opposing Big Brother is nearly impossible. Still, he begins a journal, a dangerous act of defiance, writing down with Big Brother. Chapter 2. Winston's neighbor, Mrs. Parsons, asks for his help with her children, who are members of the party's youth organization, the Spies. These children, like many in Oceania, are brainwashed to report any deviation from party doctrine, even turning on their parents. This atmosphere breeds distrust and fear. The indoctrination of children to betray family members highlights how the party corrupts loyalty and family bonds, replacing them with loyalty to Big Brother. Chapter 3. Winston dreams of the Golden Country, a peaceful landscape representing freedom and beauty. He reflects on the party's control over reality, where history is constantly rewritten. In Oceania, the party is always at war with either Eurasia or Eastasia, though the alliances frequently shift, and the populace is expected to accept these changes without question. This manipulation ensures total control over citizens' beliefs. Chapter 4. Winston works at the Ministry of Truth, where he alters past records to align with the party's current propaganda. The party's control over history is a form of thought control. By rewriting the past, the party can manipulate the present and future, erasing any evidence of contradictions. This falsification deeply troubles Winston, who feels trapped in a reality shaped entirely by lies. Chapter 5. Winston has lunch with his colleague Sim, who is working on a new edition of the Newspeak dictionary. Newspeak is the party's language designed to eliminate dissenting thoughts by removing words associated with rebellion. By narrowing language, the party limits the ability of individuals to think independently, ultimately aiming to make thought crime thinking against the party impossible. Chapter 6. Winston recalls his failed marriage with Catherine, who was as loyal to the party as any citizen. The party seeks to suppress emotional connections that might rival loyalty to Big Brother, seeing sexual and emotional repression as tools for control. Winston resents the way the party has even intruded upon private relationships, leaving him isolated and angry. Chapter 7. Winston hopes that the proles, the working class majority, might one day overthrow the party, as they are largely ignored by the government. However, he realizes the party keeps them subdued through trivial distractions, limiting their awareness of oppression. The party's view of the proles as unimportant underscores its disregard for humanity and individuality. Chapter 8. Winston visits a prole district, feeling an affinity for the working class who, unlike party members, are free to live their lives without constant surveillance. He buys a glass paperweight at an antique shop, symbolizing his yearning for beauty and the past. He meets Mr. Charrington, the shopkeeper, who shares stories of pre-party life. However, as he leaves, he spots a dark-haired woman from his workplace, whom he fears may be spying on him. Part 2. Chapter 1. The dark-haired woman, Julia, slips Winston a note that says, "I love you." Shocked, Winston feels a mix of fear and excitement, as relationships are forbidden except for reproduction. He and Julia arrange to meet secretly, and this forbidden relationship becomes an act of rebellion against the party's control. Chapter 2. Winston and Julia meet in the countryside, where they share their first moment of true freedom. Winston calls this place the Golden Country, a symbol of natural beauty and freedom in contrast to the grim reality of Oceania. Unlike Winston, Julia's rebellion is practical rather than ideological, as she cares little for politics but deeply resents the party's repression of personal pleasures. Chapter 3. Winston learns that Julia works in the fiction department, and although she outwardly appears loyal to the party, she harbors a deep-seated hatred for its control. Through her, Winston begins to see that rebellion can exist in various forms, not just in open opposition but also in personal resistance to the party's intrusion into private life. Chapter 4. The couple rents a room above Mr. Charrington's shop, creating a private heaven from the party's surveillance. Here, they express their true selves and plan their future, though Winston senses their happiness may be short-lived. The paperweight Winston bought represents his desire for a life uncorrupted by the party's influence. Chapter 5. Julia and Winston discuss the Brotherhood, a rumored resistance group led by Emmanuel Goldstein, the party's declared enemy. They meet O'Brien, a party member who seems sympathetic to their hatred of Big Brother. O'Brien gives them hope that resistance is possible, and promises to give them the book, Goldstein's Manifesto on How to Overthrow the Party. Chapter 6. Their relationship deepens, and Winston finds himself increasingly willing to risk his life for the chance of rebellion. Julia and Winston see their love affair as a form of political resistance, defying the party's restriction on personal attachments and emotional expression. Chapter 7. Winston recalls memories of his mother and sister, lost during the party's rise to power. He realizes that the party has destroyed traditional bonds of family and loyalty, replacing them with loyalty to Big Brother. Winston's nostalgia for family and human connection fuels his desire for freedom. Chapter 8. O'Brien invites Winston and Julia to his apartment, where he reveals his disdain for the party. They pledge loyalty to the Brotherhood and receive the book, which explains the mechanisms of the party's control over Oceania. The book outlines how the party maintains power through perpetual war, the suppression of truth, and the annihilation of individualism. Chapter 9. Winston reads Goldstein's Manifesto, which confirms his beliefs about the party's manipulation of reality. The perpetual war serves to keep citizens fearful and dependent on the party, while rewriting history ensures loyalty. However, before he finishes reading, Winston and Julia are caught by the thought police, revealing their rebellion as futile. Chapter 10. The owner of the antique shop, Mr. Charrington, is revealed to be a member of the thought police. The room above the shop, where Winston and Julia sought privacy, was under surveillance all along. They are taken into custody, and Winston's paperweight is shattered, symbolizing the end of his dreams. Part 3. Chapter 1. Winston is imprisoned in the Ministry of Love, where he endures harsh interrogation. O'Brien, who deceived him, reveals himself as a loyal party member and proceeds to re-educate Winston him through torture. The Ministry of Love's goal is not to eliminate rebels, but to reshape them until they love Big Brother. Chapter 2. O'Brien tortures Winston until he breaks down, forcing him to betray Julia. The party's psychological control is so complete that it not only demands loyalty but reshapes individuals' thoughts, making even disloyalty impossible. Chapter 3. O'Brien's tortures intensify as he forces Winston to accept the party's distorted reality. Winston is shown 4 fingers, but he must believe there are 5, a demonstration of the party's control over objective truth. O'Brien's goal is to make Winston unable to think independently, enforcing a complete submission to Big Brother. Chapter 4. Despite his suffering, Winston holds on to a shred of his inner rebellion, refusing to love Big Brother. However, O'Brien takes him to room 101, the ultimate torture chamber, where prisoners face their greatest fears. For Winston, this is rats, and in his terror, he betrays Julia, asking that she be tortured in his place. Chapter 5. After betraying Julia, Winston is broken, his spirit shattered. The party has successfully stripped him of his last hope, proving its power not just to kill dissent but to rewire a person's inner reality. Winston is released back into society, but he is hollow and disconnected. Chapter 6. In the final chapter, Winston encounters Julia, who has also been broken by the party. Both have lost their feelings for each other, replaced by an empty loyalty to Big Brother. The novel concludes with Winston's complete submission as he realizes he loves Big Brother, marking the party's victory in erasing even the smallest act of rebellion.